The wind moves like something alive across the frozen plain, dragging snow in low curtains that erase the horizon. Somewhere beneath that white silence, a shape struggles forward, massive, pale, barely distinguishable from the landscape itself. A polar bear. A mother. She moves with the heavy, rolling gait of exhaustion, her great head hanging low. Against her chest, tucked between her forelegs, she carries something small. A cub, no bigger than a medium dog, limp and still against her fur. The temperature has dropped past 50 below. Even for creatures built for this cold, there are limits. The mother bear stops. Her breath comes in thick clouds that freeze instantly against the fur around her muzzle. She has traveled too far south, pushed from the sea ice by forces she cannot understand. Now she stands at the edge of a human settlement, if you can call a single weathered cabin a settlement. She has never approached humans before. Every instinct warns against it. But the cub in her arms has stopped shivering, and that silence is worse than any danger. Inside the cabin, an old woman sits near the iron stove, feeding it small pieces of birch. The fire crackles and spits. Orange light moves across her face, catching the deep lines around her eyes, the weathered texture of skin that has known 70 winters. She wears 2 wool sweaters layered over a thermal shirt. Her feet, wrapped in felt boots, rest on a piece of reindeer hide. The cold seeps through the walls anyway, finds every crack, every gap in the window frame. She reaches for her tea, the canteen warm in her calloused hands. Steam rises, fades. Outside, the wind rises to a howl. She pauses, listens. There is something beneath the wind now, a sound she cannot place. The mother bear stands before the cabin door. She has crossed the final distance on instinct alone, some ancient understanding that warmth exists behind these walls. She does not roar. She does not scratch. She lowers her great head and presses it against the wood, once, twice. A soft, deliberate knock. The old woman sets down her cup. Her heart beats faster, though her hands remain steady. She knows every sound this cabin makes, the creak of contracting wood, the rattle of the stovepipe, the whisper of snow against glass. This is none of those things. She rises slowly, her joints protesting, crosses to the window. The frost is thick on the inside of the pane. She lifts her sleeve to her mouth, breathes warm air against the glass, wipes a small circle with her palm. At first, she sees only white, then the white moves. The bear's eye appears in the cleared circle of glass. Dark, liquid watching. The old woman does not step back. She has lived too long to waste movement on fear. She looks at the bear. The bear looks at her. And in that gaze, something passes between them. Something older than language, older than species. Need. The mother bear shifts her weight. The movement reveals what she carries. The cub, small and still, frost forming on its closed eyes. The old woman sees it. Her breath catches. For a long moment she does not move. The bear lowers herself to the snow. She sets the cub down gently, using her nose to push it toward the door, toward the human. Then she backs away. 3 steps. 4. She waits. The old woman stands frozen at the window. Her mind turns slowly, working through what she has seen. A polar bear, here, hundreds of kilometers from the sea ice. A cub dying of cold, a mother asking. She has no weapon that would matter against such a creature. If the bear wanted to break through that door, it could do so in seconds, but it has not. She crosses to the door. Her hand rests on the iron latch. Cold bites her fingers through her woolen gloves. She thinks of the stories her grandmother told, of the old times, when humans and bears shared the land, when respect flowed in both directions. She thinks of her own children, grown now, far away in warm cities. She thinks of what it means to ask for help when you have nothing left. She opens the door. The cold hits her like a wall. Her eyes water instantly, tears freezing on her cheeks. The cub lies at her feet, half buried in drifted snow. It does not move. Beyond it, the mother bear watches. Her breath comes in short, anxious bursts. She does not approach. She does not retreat. She waits to see what the human will do. The old woman kneels. Snow soaks through her trousers and she ignores it. She pulls off her outer glove with her teeth, presses bare fingers to the cub's chest. A heartbeat, faint, slow, still alive. She does not hesitate now. She pulls the scarf from her neck, wraps it around the cub, lifts the small body against her chest. It weighs more than she expected. Her back protests. Her arms tremble. She does not set it down. The mother bear makes a sound, low, almost inaudible beneath the wind, something between a moan and a sigh. The old woman meets her eyes one final time. Then she steps back into the cabin and closes the door. The interior feels impossibly warm after even those few seconds outside. The old woman carries the cub to the stove, lowers herself carefully onto the floor. Her hands shake as she unwraps the frozen scarf. The cub's fur is crusted with ice. Its paws are curled tight against its belly. Its eyes remain closed, sealed with frost. She has helped dying things before, dogs, reindeer calves, once a snowy owl with a broken wing, never a polar bear. She works slowly, methodically. She does not rub the cub's limbs. She knows better, knows that warming too fast can kill as surely as cold. Instead, she wraps it in dry wool, tucks it into the curve of her body, pulls a heavy blanket over them both. Body heat, the oldest medicine. Time passes, the fire crackles. Outside, the wind continues its endless assault. The old woman does not move. She breathes slowly, willing warmth into the small creature pressed against her chest. Beneath the blanket, she feels the cub's heartbeat gradually strengthen. The first sign of life is a twitch. One small paw flexes, then stills. Minutes later, a shiver runs through the cub's body. Then another. Shivering is good. Shivering means the body is fighting. The old woman closes her eyes and keeps breathing. When she opens them again, the light has changed. Afternoon has deepened toward evening. The fire has burned low. She shifts carefully, slides out from under the blanket, adds more wood to the stove. On the floor, wrapped in wool, the cub stirs, its eyes open, pale blue, clouded with confusion, fixed on nothing. Then they focus on her. The cub does not cry out, does not struggle. It watches her with an intensity that seems impossible in something so young. She crouches beside it, moves slowly, keeps her hands visible. She does not reach out to touch it. Not yet. She heats water on the stove, not hot, lukewarm, body temperature. She pours it into a shallow bowl, brings it close to the cub's mouth. At first, it does not respond. Then its tongue emerges, pink and tentative. It laps once, twice. The old woman exhales. Outside, through the frost-covered window, she sees a shape in the fading light. The mother bear has not left. She lies in the snow beside the cabin, her great body pressed against the wall, sharing what little warmth she has. Waiting. Night falls. The temperature drops further. The cabin walls creak and groan. The old woman heats broth, reindeer stock from a pot she keeps simmering on the back of the stove. She lets it cool until she can bear to touch it, then soaks a rag in the liquid. She holds the rag to the cub's mouth. It suckles weakly, then with more strength. She does this 3 times through the night. Each time the cub drinks a little more. Between feedings, she sleeps in short bursts, the cub tucked against her on the narrow bed. Its breathing deepens. Its shivering stops. Morning comes grey and cold. The wind has died. The old woman rises stiffly, checks the cub. It lifts its head, watches her cross the room. Progress. She opens the door. The mother bear is still there, covered in a thin layer of snow. At the sound of the door, she raises her head. Her eyes are red-rimmed, exhausted. She has not slept. The old woman does not speak. She simply nods. The bear lowers her head again. Days pass. The cub grows stronger. It begins to move around the cabin, exploring on unsteady legs. It sniffs at the woodpile, paws at the reindeer hide, watches the fire with wary fascination. The old woman lets it wander. She keeps her movements slow, her voice soft when she speaks to herself. Gradually, the cub stops flinching at her presence. She feeds it strips of dried fish, softened in broth. It tears at the food with small teeth, growling softly, a sound that makes her smile despite herself. It is wild. It will always be wild. But here, in this cabin, in this cold, they have found a truce. The mother bear remains outside. She does not approach the door again, but she does not leave. Each morning, the old woman opens the door and looks at her. Each morning, the bear meets her gaze, an agreement silent and unbroken. 1 week after the rescue, the cub stands on its hind legs and presses its paws against the window glass. Beyond the frost, it sees its mother. It makes a sound, high, urgent, longing. The old woman watches from across the room. She knows what must happen now. She has always known. She waits 2 more days, lets the cub build more strength, feeds it until its belly is round, until its eyes are clear and bright. Then, on a morning when the wind is gentle and the sun actually shows itself through the clouds, she wraps the cub in the same scarf that first held it. She carries it to the door. The mother bear rises as the door opens. She does not charge. She does not growl. She waits. The old woman kneels in the snow. Her knees ache. Her back protests. She sets the cub down gently, unwraps the scarf. For a moment, the small creature looks back at her. Those pale blue eyes, already growing darker, already forgetting the warmth of the cabin. Then it turns and runs to its mother. The mother bear lowers her great head. She nuzzles the cub, breathes in its scent, checking, confirming. Alive. She looks at the old woman one final time. Something passes between them again, that same wordless understanding. Gratitude, respect, farewell. The bear turns. The cub follows, scrambling to keep up with its mother's long stride. They move across the frozen plain, growing smaller and smaller against the white. The old woman watches until they disappear into the shimmer of distant snow. She stands alone in the doorway, cold seeping through her clothes. The wind picks up again, carrying ice crystals that sting her weathered cheeks. She does not go inside immediately. She breathes. She remembers. That evening she sits by the stove, feeding it birch bark and dry branches. The fire crackles. The cabin is quiet. On the floor beside her feet, a tuft of white fur clings to the edge of the blanket. She picks it up, holds it to the light. Then she tucks it into the pocket of her sweater, close to her heart. Outside, the aurora begins to move across the sky, green and purple curtains shifting in the magnetic wind. The old woman does not see it. Her eyes are closed, her breathing slow. But somewhere out there under that same light, a mother and her cub travel north, toward the ice, toward home. The cabin settles into silence. Snow begins to fall again, soft and steady, covering everything. The footprints at the door, the hollow where the bear lay, the path that leads to nowhere and everywhere. In the morning, there will be no trace, only the land, vast and white and patient, and an old woman, alone again, tending her fire against the cold.